So before we get into the Week 3 preview, we are going to talk to another Cleveland Browns alum that will be going on the Browns fan cruise with us.
Powered by Riverside FM.
All right, so our next guest is a hometown hero in Northeast Ohio. He played high school football locally before playing 4 years at one of the biggest college football programs in the nation. After being drafted to the NFL and having an initial stint out west, he made his way to the Cleveland Browns in 1992 and played for Cleveland from 92 to 95. Still resides in the area and continues to make an impact in his community to this day. So without further delay, boys, let's welcome Frank Stams. Frank
the Tank's in the house.
How you doing, Frank?
I'm doing well, Ronnie, Kenny. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. So before we get to some of the questions that we have for you, I do want to talk about something here. You're going to be on the Browns fan cruise in March of 2024. That is confirmed. Stamp, signed, sealed, delivered, whatever you want to say about it. Right. You will be on the cruise.
I never missed a kickoff in my life. And let me tell you something. That's one kickoff I will not miss.
Yeah. And so, we will be on the cruise as well. We'll be emceeing most of the events on the cruise. And we're really looking forward to sharing that fan cruise with you. So can you just tell our listeners a little bit about the fan cruise here?
Well, first of all, when the Browns invited me to go on a cruise, it was for my wife and I, it was a dream come true because I have never been on a cruise before. And I'm looking forward to this as much as anybody. And, then when I start hearing about the cruise, it's a 5-day cruise in the Caribbean, leaving out of Miami, stopping in Nassau, the Bahamas, spending a day there, traveling, spending a couple of days at sea, and then porting in Jamaica as well, spending a day there, and then coming back to Miami. And let me tell you something. Browns Nation, this is going to be the most fun you can legally have in international waters.
Well, I mean, that sums it up pretty well. I mean, I was looking forward to it. Now I just am ecstatic.
Now I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
I wish we were leaving tomorrow. We're rocking out.
So we will come back to the Browns fan cruise here towards the end of the interview, but right now we want to talk a little bit more about you. I know you've kind of got a pretty interesting story, especially here in Northeast Ohio. Hometown kid, right? So lifelong resident of Cuyahoga Falls, went to St. V. So tell us a little bit about that.
My dad went to St. V. People ask me, I grew up in Cuyahoga Falls. They said, well, why didn't you go to Cuyahoga Falls High School? I said, listen, there was no decision-making process for me as far as where. My dad was raised by the nuns in grade school at St. V. and then went to high school. So it was a no-brainer. I was going to St. V. Tremendous amount of, loyalty there. I played for a great coach, John Sistone. We had a lot of success. We won a couple of state championships while I was there, my sophomore and junior year. And then, I was lucky enough to get noticed. Notre Dame came calling, took some visits across the country. But, how do you not go to Notre Dame? My high school was the Fighting Irish, right?
Right.
And, plus my dad, a big influence in my life. He grew up in the late 40s. Frank Leahy was a coach. I think it was 4 undefeated seasons that he had there. So, they never told me where to go, but, it was a great fit for me. And, I'm lucky enough to win the national championship in my 5th year there. Lou Holtz came in the last 3, turned it around. We go undefeated. And interesting, I was projected to go between rounds 3 and 5 by the all-knowing and all-wise Mel Kiper. And I jumped up into the second round. with the 45th pick, and a couple of reasons for that. One, the Rams had an ungodly number of draft choices in the first 3 rounds because the year before they just traded Eric Dickerson to the Colts, and plus we went out to my senior year at Notre Dame. We went out to Southern Cal. We were 1 in the nation; they were 2. And I had a good game. And in the stands was John Robinson, the head coach of the Rams, and John Shaw, who was the president of the Rams. And they ultimately told me that they loved the way that I competed on the football field. And that's why they chose me in the early rounds. So, it was, St. V to Notre Dame, and then initially to the Rams breaking into the NFL.
So, could we take a real quick step back there? So, because when you were at St. V's, you actually played a different side of the ball, didn't you?
Well, at St. V, we were I shouldn't say we were so small, but the smaller schools, you play just about everything. In fact, there were a couple of games I don't think I ever came off the field. I was returning punts. I was running the ball on offense. I was playing linebacker on defense. And, listen, if they were paying us back then, I would ask for a raise every week. And, I was running the ball. And I initially, thank you for remembering, initially I went to Notre Dame as a fullback. And it wasn't until my junior Holtz's first spring, that would have been the spring of 1986, that I turned a bad break into a good one. I broke my leg my first week of spring practice with Lou Holtz. And to be honest with you, probably the writing was on the wall. I was never going to be, he ran the veer option, and I was an I formation fullback at best. So when I broke my leg, it took me from a 5 flat to a 5.5, and there's no way I was playing that. So the next year, you and your listeners will like this. There was a young linebacker coach on the staff, Barry Alvarez. When Holtz said, "I'm done with Stams, who wants him?" Alvarez said, "I'll take the rum-dum." And so that's when I moved to defense. And I thrived under Barry Alvarez. Just loved his coaching style. Just was great. I always thought that he's the kind of coach that should coach with a scotch in one hand and a cigarette in the other. And just cool as the other side of the pillow, as the saying goes. And the defense played like.
Yeah, so he put you in, and he realized pretty quick. He's like, "This guy's a dog."
Yeah, right. It took me a year to convince him that I wasn't. But we have a great relationship to this day. I've been up there a couple of times to Wisconsin, and it's no coincidence that he's had tremendous success going up there.
One of the things I find so fascinating about your career is some of the folks that you've had the chance to work with. A lot of people, not a lot of people, but there's a large contingent of folks that have played college football, but not very many of them got to play for Lou Holtz. Can you talk about just what that was like?
Oh my God! I listen. I should get all the therapy sessions that and get you the transcripts. I'm still dealing with that today. I'll tell you. Listen, here's the thing about Lou Holtz: tough as nails. Grew up with nothing in Follinsby, West Virginia. And you talk about the great American success story, a guy that worked his ass off his whole life. And when I say he was tough, that's the ultimate compliment because, that's what you have to be, in my opinion, to, play football and to be successful. That's one of the, I think, 3 necessary ingredients. And he was that. He was demanding. But you know what? Why we respected him is because every day he was the same guy. Every day we knew what to expect from him. Every day he worked as hard, if not harder, than we did. So how do you not respect that? You can have your own personal opinions. I'll be honest with you. I'm not going out and having a beer with him. But you as a young man looking for an identity, and you're absent of the family there, the football team becomes your family. And that, the father figure there is the head coach. So every day you know what to expect. You rely on that, and you can thrive in that environment if you don't let it drive you crazy. Now, some guys, it will, that kind of demanding, highly critical environment, only as good as your last play can really, play havoc with you. But you know what? I grew up in Northeast Ohio, tough football. I knew that football. I knew that animal coming to Notre Dame in Lou Holtz. And, I wanted to prove him wrong. And because he was always, what are you gonna show me? And so I wasn't the guy that always needed to win, but I was the guy that never wanted to lose. So I didn't want to lose my position on the team, and ultimately, he had the right chemistry with a lot of players, and we win.
Yeah,
sounds like it.
So you went from St. V to Notre Dame, drafted by the Rams in '89, and then fast forward a couple of years here, and you ended up heading over to Cleveland. So tell us a little bit about your time with Cleveland.
Well, it was, listen, for a kid growing up in Northeast Ohio, you kidding me? When I got traded to the Browns, I called my dad, and I said, hey, I got good news and bad news. And he says, well, give me the good news first. And I said, well, I got traded to the Browns. He said, well, what the hell possibly could be the bad news? And, he was actually in Las Vegas at the time with my car. And when I got traded, because they came out, my parents came out for a home and home preseason game. And they were going to Vegas between the games. I was getting a ride to work. I said, well, the bad news is take my car and keep going. And son of a gun, he did. He drove my car back to Cleveland. True story. So I arrive in Cleveland, and, Saban, Belichick's the coach. Saban is the defensive coordinator. And Nick recruited me out of high school when I was at St. V. He was at Michigan State, and I knew him. And I'm playing with guys, Clay Matthews was on that team. Bernie was on the team. I mean, Michael Dean was on the team, had a lot of talent on that team. And Bill's challenge was to put it all together. And as you guys know, and Browns fans from that period know, it was a challenge. It was a challenge because Bill was coming in, and he was a Parcells disciple, right? And Parcells was the kind of guy, last guy standing in training camp makes the team. Well, he inherited a culture from Bud Carson. And from what Clay Matthews was telling me, Bud Carson was the ultimate players coach. If it was raining too hard, Bud Carson would say, let's just stay in and watch film. So, a team over time gets a little soft in that environment. And I can attest to that because when I was with the Rams, we came and played Cleveland in the stadium and we beat them. And I'll be honest with you, that was not a physical football team that we played. And so, Bill's got to change that culture, and that was really hard. And he's changing the defense, and he's changing the offense. And you guys know what was going on there. I mean, it was just short of chaos. And but despite that, in '94. We, up until a couple of years ago when they won at Pittsburgh, won the playoff game in Pittsburgh, the 94 team was the last team to win a playoff game.
Yep.
Hell, I'm watching the Eagles in the they're playing the preseason at Philadelphia, and they showed a stat across the bottom of the screen. It said, the last time Cleveland won in Philadelphia was in 1994. And I said, dang, I remember that game. I had an interception in that game. So
I was there.
So that was, it's been a long, long time for Browns fans, for that, playoff road to come back. But I'm confident that Coach Stefanski and the talent that he's got on that team, things are going to happen this year for him.
And so speaking of a couple of those names again, so you mentioned Saban.
Well, first of all, those names are insane to even think about the fact that we had them in Cleveland at the same time.
Saban, Belichick. I think Schwartz was there. Was that his first go around?
Yeah,
was
Schwartz
around that same
there,
time?
Sure. Yeah, I saw Schwartz not too long
Frank
ago.
Stams.
Frank Stams was there.
Do you have any great?
Ferentz, still the Iowa coach. He's there.
Do you have a favorite Bill Belichick story from your time there?
Bill, here's a humanizing story about Belichick. And listen, the guy eats, breathes, sleeps, and does everything else football. I mean, he just that's his essence. It's his being. But he's got a human side. And I remember one day I walked into early to we team meetings at 8 or 9 o'clock depending on the day. And I walk in and he's wearing, of all things, not a hoodie, not a torn shirt that he was 99% of the times he's wearing, but he's wearing a blazer, a jacket, a sport coat. And I look, and it was a nice sport coat, and I was impressed. And I said to, not that I have any fashion plate myself, but so I said to him, I said, "Yeah, Coach, nice. That's a nice looking jacket." And he just kind of, grunted at me and smiled. And that was on a Wednesday. And then Saturday morning, when we were getting ready to take off or play the game, as I walked in, he hands me a note, and it's the name and number of his tailor and the guy that sells him the jackets. And I said, son of a gun, of all the things he had to worry about, he had the presence of mind or the memory or the, I guess I just say the concern to share that with me. And I thought, wow, he loved his players. And he was like Holtz in a lot of ways, and Saban was from the same mold. They didn't expect anything from their players that they didn't expect from themselves first. There was a number of times I'd be leaving the facility 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I'd grab some game tape to watch at home. And I remember a couple of times going in the linebacker room, and he's there pitch black, watching film on the bicycle, and just like pouring sweat out of him. And because he was a triathlete, he ran triathlons, and I mean, I'm not saying he was training, but he just everything he did, he worked hard at it. And, and I guess that's, those two stories, probably, when I look back at my time there to think what kind of guy Belichick was, he's a pretty good guy. He's a pretty good guy.
Yeah, that's really special.
And so kind of in that same vein with the people who were there at the time, you were there when he who shall not be named moved the Browns out of town in the wee hours of the night. So I know that lives on in infamy here in Cleveland and always will. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Maybe give us some insight into those dark times and what it was like around the locker room?
I'd be happy to. So that, of course, that's the 95 season. So I start that season with the Panthers, make it to the last cuts. They cut me. I'd like to say, I want to make an excuse here for myself. I was coming off a knee surgery. I was really kind of plagued by injuries my whole career. So they cut me, couldn't get healthy. My agent gets me a tryout with Kansas City. So I go out there. Schottenheimer's the head coach out there. Great locker room. Montana's the quarterback. Marcus Allen's the running back. Some other great players out there. I was like, wow, this is great. So I last there. I, as Leroy Hoyd would like to say, I fooled him out there for about 6-7 weeks, picked up a paycheck. And then my agent calls. And here's how I like to say it. Because, the Browns the Browns went with Caldwell and another guy, Dixon, at young linebackers. And they didn't pick up, I was a free agent. So they didn't want to sign me as a free agent, but Carolina did. Bill Polian was down there with Dom Capers. And so the Kansas City releases me, says, hey, listen, we got to make some rosters. We got to make a roster spot. We got to waive you. Will you hang around a little bit? I said, listen, are you going to pay me? And they said, no. I said, then I'm out of here. My agent calls me and says, and I like to say that the Browns realized their mistake. So they said, they want to re-sign me because they weren't happy with the way things were. I said, hey, listen, I'll be there. Give me a couple of days. I'll be there. So I stop in Toledo. Actually, I stopped in Chicago with a buddy of mine who's from Toledo. I get up, I spend the night. I get up in the morning. He gets a call from his mom. She's living in Toledo. She said there was a story in the Blade that the Browns were going to move. And I told my buddy, I said, listen, of the 28 or 30 teams in the NFL at the time, the Browns would be the last team to move. So I drove into Cleveland. We had a team meeting the next morning. Who walks through the door first? The person the name not to be spoken. He walks in the door. Belichick's following him. He announces the move. And after that, all hell broke loose. I mean, it was just bedlam. It was CYA, and nobody knew what their future was going to be like. And I remember that from that point on going forward, because it was such a bad taste in the community in the Northeast Ohio's mouth, you saw the advertising start diminish weekly in the stadium to the point where at the end of the season, the frickin' Marlboro Man was gone. The Marlboro Man, bro. I don't know if you guys are old enough for that, but the Marlboro Man, that's like frickin' the Washington Monument in DC. He was, and he's gone. And it was so eerie playing in a dark stadium like that with no advertising. I'll never forget it.
Yeah, and so it's a crazy story, and like we said, just a terrible time for I think just about everybody involved here in Cleveland, fans, players, coaches, you name it. But you've seen some stuff in the NFL, I would say. Kind of with that and everything that you've been around and everything you've experienced. I mean, do you have any advice for some of the younger players, especially for the Cleveland Browns, as they start their careers?
So, these players are so much more mature and so more focused on, what's at stake. Well, maybe that's because there's more at stake today. And I'm certainly talking about the dollars. And you want to they're more in tune with prolonging the career. It was great. I wanted to play it as long as I could, but the focus. So there's, when I say, what could I tell these guys? These guys are all dialed in with that aspect, being a professional. I think, what you want to try to be is as much of a professional as possible, because, as you guys know, they're laying out a lot of money for these guys and they want to see a return on it. I guess, also, the greatest thing about, I love the pro game versus the college game. And I'll tell you this quick story. And this is what I could tell the guys I think most of them know it. In college football, they teach you to step with the right foot. In pro football, they teach you how to make the play. It's all about it's all about being productive. And I would, and I learned that. That's why I love the pro game, because it was just a football game after that. It was just going out and making plays. It wasn't worried about, your position coach, worried about getting fired and all that. They didn't have that attitude in the pros. It was going out and making plays. So I wish I would have been zeroed in more of that is believing, because, a lot of the game is played on instincts. And believe your instincts and go for it. Try to make more plays. I look back in my career, there's a number of plays that if I would have just believed in what I saw, that I would have made those plays. There would have been a number of sacks, big play sacks, that I would have made just because I was a split second late. And really, that's the difference in the game, is those split seconds that make a difference. And some guys, you see that especially at quarterback, the ones that can't make the adjustment from college to pro, the split seconds. I was lucky enough that I could do that for a period of time. So I guess to answer your question, it's like, believe what you see and just go out there and have fun. Play the game like you're 6 and 7 years old again.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously I've never played at that level because I'm me. But I mean, it sounds like great advice. All these guys are there for a reason, so just trust what got you there in the first place, and go out there and play.
Fascinating.
I would have said it like that.
I always get in trouble because Ronnie wants to move this thing forward, and I want to stop and chit chat. I've heard you tell this story again, and I don't know previously, but I don't know if all of our viewers have heard this story. But can you speak to just how you ended up in Cleveland from the Rams in the first place?
Oh, are you going to talk about you talking about the trade? You're talking about the reporter? You're talking about the reporter that came down on Rams locker room? So I fast forward. I fast forward a little through that, but okay, classic, right? So I told you I was hurt. My parents come out to the game. I'm dressing but not playing, so after the game, I see him outside. I toss him the keys, and then they take off with the car. I go down to the locker room, and this reporter comes up to me and starts asking me questions, like real crazy questions, like, how's your state of mind? And, asking me questions about my injury and all that. And I said, buddy, you got the right guy? He says, I got the right guy. So I go home, and my agent calls me and says, what's going on with you? The Browns, I said, I'm hurt. I said, I'm dressing, but I'm not playing. He said, the Browns want to do a deal for you. I said, do the deal. And because the Rams ended up moving like 2-3 years later. People out there, they don't come and boo you and throw batteries at you and snowballs. They just don't come. They go to the beach. They go to the mountains. They just ignore you.
Yeah.
So I said, man, are you kidding me? I go back to the Browns and be lucky enough to play from my hometown. So I go to practice the next day. Here comes Chuck Knox. And he says, Stams, we're going to do you a favor. And I said, oh, yeah, what's that? Because he and I really didn't see eye to eye. He said, we're sending you back to Cleveland. And he knew that was what would make me happy because he's a Western Pennsylvania guy himself. And I said, gee, Coach, I'm sorry things didn't work out here, but I think I turned around and skipped into the locker room. I was so happy. So I get on the plane. They fly, that same day, they fly me into Cleveland. And I'm in the weight room working out. And here comes Belichick. He says, Frank, glad to have you here in Cleveland. I said, Coach, are you kidding me? I grew up down the street here. This is awesome. And he said, yeah. He said, you recognize that guy over there? He points to another guy in the weight room, non-player, part of the administration personnel. He calls him over. I said, no, Coach, I don't know him from Adam. He calls him over. He starts asking me the same questions the reporter did 3 nights prior in the locker room. And I said, son of a gun, it's the same guy. He snuck a scout out there to do their due diligence on me before they traded for me. And I said, wow, that's a guy who does his homework. So, and that's when I called my, and probably wondering, prior to getting on the plane from LA to Cleveland, I had to find my father and said, hey, listen, I got good news and bad news. And that's when I laid it on him. You got to drive the car all the way back. And he did.
Yeah, it sounds like the NFL was like the Wild West back then. Like people were just doing crazy stuff.
It's just got to be one of the best stories I've ever heard.
Like, can you imagine somebody in the NFL doing that today?
Right. Yeah. Oh, there's all kinds of, and I came in during a time, they just passed the drug policy. And I'm coming in on the tail end of that. And I remember the older guys talking about, the guys that, were soft and they could tell a huge difference. And I'd be in locker rooms. We went to New Orleans one time and we played, and I'm in the training room waiting. My Achilles were killing me, and I need they were giving us Darvocet at the time. So I'm waiting for the trainer and the doc to come in so they could prescribe Darvocet for me. And I'm the only one in there, but there's one other item in there, and it's the black bag where they keep all the medicine. And the black bag is completely open. And I see veteran after veteran after veteran come in and grab medication out of the black bag. And after that went on for about 15, 20 minutes. And then the doctor came in and closed the black bag. And I said, oh, I get what's going on here. These guys, what the doc doesn't know, he's not responsible for it. They were self-prescribing, but you had to be like 4 or 5 years into the league where they would trust you. They weren't doing that for a rookie. And I wasn't tuned into that. Yeah.
Wow. Man. That's just wild.
Yeah, no, that's why this is why the NFL, the Browns cruise is going to be so much fun, because I'm going to tell these stories and more. And I know the other guys that, like Hanford and, Metcalf, it's just going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, we know now Frank Stams doesn't hold back. So, but no, I mean, the last question I had for your time in Cleveland here, though, was, obviously spending time with the franchise. It's more than just playing football. You kind of become a family. You grow close with your teammates, your community. Is there a favorite off-field memory that you have from your time in Cleveland?
When I first got there, Bernie, kind of took me under his wing. Why? I don't know. I think, we shared some experience, not just on the field, being, both Northeast Ohio, Miami, Notre Dame, bit of a rivalry. But we shared some experience too, that we knew some same people. And he kind of took me under his wing, and I'll never forget him being so nice to me. He invited me out. He would take the offensive lineman out to dinner, and he invited me out with him to Johnny's up in Cleveland there, and a wonderful restaurant, and just hung out with those guys all night long. And I think, that I'm speaking to, the friendship and the chemistry that, he was fostering. And that's a big part, that's to me, championship teams, the chemistry's there. I mean, I saw that when I played against the San Francisco 49ers in Montana, and Roger Craig, Rathman, Taylor, and, the other guy on this, Rice. Those guys, we played against them over in Japan one year, and I was watching those guys, interact, and that's So getting back to the Browns, Bernie taking me out to dinner, I'll never forget that, and that was, that made me feel good about being part of a team that, really I didn't have any friends.
Yeah. And I mean, that's awesome. And I would love to sit here and talk Brown stories with you until we have no time left. But fortunately, we'll be following up with more interviews with you on the Fan Cruise, actually. So we'll save some of these. But you did have such an amazing and interesting career. But I do know for most guys, they get sort of this whole second life after football. So can you tell us a couple things, what you're up to today, if you're still involved with the game at all, and kind of any charities or anything like that you're involved with?
Well, thank you for asking. It's important to me, and, to give back to the community. And the main way I do that is through the Cleveland Browns Foundation. They have a number of charity. I mean, they're a charitable organization themselves, and we get involved through them. Browns alumni get involved with the number of charities that they sponsor and contribute to. One of them happens to be the Adaptive Football League, where we're working and playing alongside men and women that have challenges physically and emotionally. And you want to learn, you want to come away a better person, get involved in that. And then, I, up until recently, I ran the NFL Alumni Club here in Cleveland. And we did a lot of great work. The 70-some guys that were involved, and a lot of these guys are going on the cruise, like Greg Pruitt and Hanford Dixon, got involved, and we raised over $100,000 in 3 years for Special Olympics Ohio.
Nice. So that's incredible.
It's really good stuff. I'm a councilman. I enjoy getting into I look at it as the arena. I really don't. I'm not a Republican or Democrat. People love this. I get on their doorstep. I said I leave my party affiliation off my leave behind, and they want to know why. And I said, because when I was in the locker room and we're trying to win games, there were no Democrats or Republicans, and people say, "Yeah, we love that." So yeah, I'm a councilman here in town, and
Chicago Falls. That's where I live.
Yeah, Chicago Falls. Yeah, I grew up in Chicago Falls, so it's special to me. Married to a beautiful wife, Mary. Been married close to 25 years now. Two great kids. So, I'm really grateful. Grateful for what I have. I'm really grateful for what I have. So, thank you for asking.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And I do know one other thing that you're up to today as well is you have your own podcast, I believe, right?
Oh, thank you. Yeah. In the Dog Pound. Yeah, in the Dog Pound. We do it with Metcalf, Leroy Horde, Hanford Dixon, and Mike Tomzek. So yeah, we just kicked off our second season, and in the Dog Pound, where you probably find your Sportscast, Burning River Sportscast. It's catching, I think, some momentum. So, we love it. We just get in there and yuck it up. We'd love to have you guys on, and maybe vice versa. Yeah,
for sure.
And there's nothing better than just talking Browns, right?
It's the best, right?
With the season by the start, there'll be a lot to talk about.
Yep.
Real quick follow up too. You mentioned kind of in the arena, which I love. Just like going back to the Teddy Roosevelt man in the arena. What's the harder arena now that you've been involved in local politics and in the NFL?
Oh, wow. Are you kidding me? The politics are way harder. I mean, at least most of the time in football, you see them coming. There's a line of scrimmage, in politics. I mean, they're coming from all angles. I tell people this all the time. What I miss most about football is its honesty. And because, in football, those assistant coaches and head coaches and players, they didn't give a crap about your feelings. They were going to tell you exactly how you feel. And they didn't hide things. But the beauty of that is that you knew exactly where you stood. So you were either going to get better faster or, you were going to fail. And it was instantaneous. I mean, we'd get criticism. This is a hard part for players when they adjust going into the afterlife, is that immediate feedback. Because, we'd get it from our assistant coaches. We'd get it in the meeting room from films. So you were constantly being evaluated. A lot of times you're out there, you're not getting that instant evaluation all the time. So it's hard. You've got to have a strong belief in who you are and the conviction in which you do it. So to succeed, rather than people just driving you all the time to succeed. So, I guess, I forget your question now because I get off on these tangents and I go.
Harder arena, football or politics?
Oh, yeah, politics by far. By far.
Yeah. So again, I would love to go ahead.
No, I was going to say, nobody in politics. No, the whole thing in football. Well, maybe the whole thing in football is being accountable. And in politics, nobody wants to be accountable.
I love that.
Yeah. So again, I would love to sit here and tell stories all day. This has been phenomenal so far. But I am going to bring this back to the time that we get to share on the open ocean in March of 2024 and a couple of amazing stops along the way. So let's talk about some of the things that everyone should look forward to. First of all, what event or activity during the entire fan cruise are you looking forward to most yourself?
Well, what I'm looking forward to most is the time on the ship. We've got a couple of days at sea where, there's going to be, it's just us and the people coming on to enjoy the experience, the players and the fans and the Browns fans and Browns Nation. And those activities that they have planned on board, whether it's a competition, whether maybe it's trivia, whatever, maybe it's, storytelling. I'm looking forward to that the most. Certainly, looking forward to getting out, maybe, seeing a little bit of the Bahamas, Nassau, I've never been to Jamaica, so I'd love to see what that's like. I'm really, I really like engaging with the fans and talking with them. So I'm really looking forward to getting to know, making a lot of new friends. To be honest with you.
Yeah, and what event or activity? I mean, that obviously that's what you're looking forward to, and that's one of the things we're looking forward to as well. But what activity or event do you think the fans should be the most excited about?
Well, I'm really looking forward to hanging out with the fans, whether it's at dinner or on the dance floor or at the pub or at the pool. In the lawn chairs, or just, I'm looking forward to, interacting with the fans and,
Yeah, and the cool thing is with this, I know at certain events, they're kind of behind some red tape or you guys are kind of in your own section and it's like, you can look, but you can't touch, you can't get close and really talk to you guys. But this fan cruise is completely different, right? I mean, they're able to get right up next to you and have a conversation with you.
Yeah, I love people touching me. Just touch me. Listen, you can touch me all the time. I think it was the Rocky Horror Picture Show that she said, touch me, touch me, touch me. That's basically, I'm going to get a shirt that says, touch me. Yeah, it might not, it's not going to say feel me. It's going to just say touch me. So I like it. It'll be
Frank,
on the
can we collaborate?
It'll be on the front and the back. So
yeah.
Can we collaborate on that, Frank? Can we get a shirt that says "Touch Me"? Frank Stams.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how can we make it says I'm Frank? Touch me. Yeah.
We'll just Burning River Sportscast will come up with T-shirts for each player.
Yeah, it's like St. Patrick's Day. Kiss me, I'm Irish. Touch me, I'm Frank. Yeah, no, listen. Man. Here's what we should. This was a hard thing. You talk about going in the real world. I had a real hard time with this, and I want fans on the cruise to be ready for this. Listen, if we're having a good time and we do something good, say we're in a competition together, we're getting smacked on the bottom. And that really was a problem with HR when I got into the workforce and I was going around in the office environment smacking some of my, female coworkers on the bottom. They said, listen, Frank, you can't do that here. So we're going to listen. Not only are they going to touch me, but there was a lot of touching going on and huddling up and that I'm used to. So you're going to get the true fan experience. There's going to be
one thing is guaranteed with Frank Stams, everyone's getting touched.
Yeah. I like it. Right.
Something good to look forward to there. But no, I also know that there is a competition for the Browns backers organizations out there. Just so everybody kind of knows, and I just want to recap what that is. The chapter with the most bookings will get an all expenses paid balcony cabin for 2 on the Browns fan cruise. The chapter with the highest members to bookings ratio also gets an all expenses paid ocean view cabin for 2. All members of the winning chapter will receive a specialty dining pass for 2 guests, and all members of the winning chapter will receive a Browns fan cruise commemorative Cleveland Browns autographed football. So with that being said, do you have anything that you want to say to Browns backers across the nation, in the world specifically?
I just want to say it's going to be an awesome. I'm so looking forward to it. I don't want to, I guess, I just think it's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it, getting to know the fans, and I think it's just going to be a great experience. So I'm looking forward to the season as well.
Yeah, we can't wait either. I know we're excited. Now, I'm way more excited now that you got me all excited to touch Frank Stams,
Yeah.
So
I like it.
How can you not be excited?
See, it's contagious, right? Yeah.
Maybe I'm going to let people touch me too. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see.
Nobody wants to touch you.
Okay. All right. No, but Frank, listen, it's been a real pleasure having you on here. We really appreciate it. I'm sure we will talk again soon. We'll definitely talk again on the fan cruise. But until then, thank you so much for joining us. Like I said, it's been a pleasure.
We appreciate you being such a good sport.
Kenny, Ronnie, thank you so much for having me on the Burning River Sportscast. It's been my pleasure. So thank you. I'm Frank Stams, and you're listening to the Burning River Sportscast. Go Browns.
Man, awesome time speaking with Frank, huh?
Frank,
Frank the Tank.
Frank was insightful for sure.
Dude has some stories, huh?
Quite a few stories, and hopefully there's plenty of more where that came from.
I was going to say, I feel like we're going to spend a lot of time on the cruise talking with Frank about his time with the Browns. He has some stories, man.
I mean, I have more questions than answers, even after a 40-minute interview. That was incredible.
Everybody's touching on everybody. I don't know.